What's happening? This one is blocking the site. Can we fix the logistics here?
I thought you were going to have some marketing.
Yeah, but there are people sitting up there. Whew. That looks a lot better. Hello, everybody. Apologies for a little delay. It's good to see so many people on a Friday evening. I'm quite impressed. This is a sign that we don't have a lot of fun happening tonight at Malmo outside of Food Cafe, right? It's all a matter of prioritization. So welcome, everyone. My name is Negar. I'm one of the 4 presenters of Azure Skåne User Group, or Meetup Group. Tonight we have Nikos and Goran here with us as well. And we have all gathered here together for the Global Azure event, as you have all seen and heard of earlier. Let me see why I see something else on my screen. This is better now. So before we get started, I just got some information from Microsoft Learn team that we have 3 exam vouchers for Azure Fundamentals with 50% discount today, which we would like to give away to 3 people who ask the best questions. From Nikos end, keep your best questions that way. No, well, the best question raised at me, or Nikos, or Saeid. The next 2 presenters for the next topics. So.
And is it only for the Azure fundamentals or some others?
Only Azure fundamentals.
It's the fundamentals, and it's 50% discount. It's not a bad deal. How many of you have the fundamental certification already? Azure fundamentals. Okay, only 3. So there's potential. There's going to be a fight. Alrighty. So the topic I'm going to present today is about Azure OpenAI, Azure AI Search service, and how you can build a chatbot riding on these 2 AI services on Azure. We will go through some intro. I will walk you through some fundamentals before we start looking at Azure Portal, the services in action, and how they work. If you have any questions, let's keep it for the end of the presentation, at least, before I start the demo. So I just go through the fundamentals without interruptions, if that's okay. Considering the fact that we started a couple minutes late, I just want to keep the time, yeah? So you all have heard about OpenAI, you know about Microsoft Azure, and you know about their partnership, the fact that they have come together and now OpenAI services are available within Azure, in your Azure tenants. How many of you have actually tried exploring Azure OpenAI services? Wow, that's impressive. Very nice. And you know the motive behind this partnership is to basically accelerate AI utilization in the market, among people, and leverage the benefits of it in a healthy and safe, responsible way. There are different learning models. I'm not going to dig deep into each and every one of them. Some of them are already available. As you know, ChatGPT, for example, runs on GPT 3.5, and that is the version that is available right now in Azure OpenAI as well. And there are other models also coming gradually as preview. Some of them are already there. If you want to start playing around with Azure OpenAI service or Azure Search, Azure AI Search, previously known as Cognitive Search, service, you need to submit requests. So it's not enabled by default in your tenants, as you might have already experienced it. So there's a form that you need to fill out, and for each and every one of these services. So actually you need to go through that process, and you need to be patient with it until it is enabled. And they do not accept personal emails. It has to have a valid case why you need to have Azure OpenAI enabled in your tenant. Sometimes you need to explain your use case, whether you're building a demo or building something for a client use case. You need to give them a hint that you're not going to abuse the service, right? And even these models would require some request form to be filled out. So it's not enough if you have ordered Azure OpenAI service to be enabled. If you would like to try out some of these models with certain capacity, you need to order capacity. So they might show up as preview on the list, but you cannot actually leverage them unless you order some capacity. And they can be cheap with capacity, so build your use cases to be convincing. So looking at Microsoft's AI territory, on one side, we have the Azure services. We have Azure OpenAI service, which we've talked about. We have Azure AI infrastructure. We have machine learning, and we have Azure AI services, formerly known as cognitive services, right? And on the other side, we have Microsoft 365 Copilot, which has been the talk of town for a while now, right? What is Copilot? Do we know what Copilot is?
Digital assistant.
Uh-huh, that does what?
Help you gather information on tasks, emails, drafts,
Not bad, exactly. It is called Microsoft 365 Copilot. And you know what Microsoft 365 is? It's an app suite that includes Office Suite together with a few other apps. You know, we have Planner, we have Power Platform in there, we have, you have a lot of different apps basically within the tenant that you get access to depending on your license. Basically, whether you have an E3, E1, E5, different licenses enable different apps within your app suite. And of course, Microsoft 365 Copilot is a digital assistant, as you rightly said, in the context of Microsoft 365 App Suite. But we also have heard about GitHub Copilot. What's that about? Don't you get it through IntelliSense in Visual Studio, for example? Yeah? Exactly. Have you tried it out? Wow, amazing. I have not tried GitHub Copilot, but what I hear is that it actually works. You can actually train it, and then it can write code for you. You need to still rely on human code review, right? You cannot count on Copilot to do the code review yet. You still need to moderate it. And then, of course, we have D365 Copilot. And as some of you may know, we have two different flavors of Dynamics 365. We have customer engagements, and we have finance and operations. And within this one promise, and one point that is emphasized over and over, to use AI responsibly and securely. We already talked a lot about different types of Copilot, but it doesn't just come down to Microsoft 365 Dynamics and GitHub. We have so many different flavors of Copilot now. I sometimes feel like the term Copilot is getting abused. Like, where are we? Who am I? Which Copilot? Which context, right? Because you have Power BI Copilot, you have Security Copilot, You have Power Platform Copilot in low-code context. So many different flavors, right? But there is one part that is specifically interesting at the moment, and that is the possibility of extending your vanilla copilots. Meaning, not only can you leverage the vanilla Microsoft 365 version of Copilot or these different types of copilots, you can actually customize it. You can hook it up with different backend connectors, different systems, applications that you have within your organizational IT landscape, and actually leverage your organizational data through Copilot. That basically opens the door for basically leveraging the data residing in different systems in your organization. Some of those connectors are graph connectors. They are provided by Microsoft. There is a whole load of them. As you can see, you have a connector for Azure DevOps. You have one for Jira. You have one for Confluence. So you can actually train and hook up your copilots within your Microsoft 365 to return data related to the content you have stored in Confluence. That is quite something, right? Instead of having to go through so much documentation, reading, searching, you can raise a question and you get your response in human language, right? And then, of course, there are some third-party connectors out there. And you can check all the connectors out following the link. Now let's get into Gen AI topic and Azure OpenAI. What exactly do we mean by Gen AI? Generative AI, what does it mean?
Generating content, text, image, videos based on the user input.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's AI that is actually, generating content. It's smart enough to generate. It's been trained to generate text, rephrase the content, understand some context, semantics, and rephrase it, return it back to the end user. I mean, previously, if you wanted to search for some content, you would go into a web page, let's say, some page looking like Bing or Google, your organizational intranet search. You would write a single question, and then you would get, different hits. What generative AI does is that it basically does the reading and summarizing for you, and it sugarcoats the response and returns it back in human language, right? Some of the common use cases that we see in the market have to do with increasing productivity and automation. Have you delivered any certain use case in your organization using Gen AI? Something that is custom to your organization? You have, why are you hiding over there? I have a feeling you, please step forward.
So we are still in midst of implementation actually. It's still not the done deal because of, other issues, admin issues. But the use case we have picked is legal contracts and patents. So our company, Tetra Pak, our customer frames all of contracts and patents and all that. And absolutely, as you said rightly, it needs a human to review those. But to generate the template of those contracts, right, it takes a lot of time. So they are leveraging the power of generative AI to have that first draft ready for the patents and contracts.
I see. Very cool. So you're using Gen AI to basically draft the contracts, but you're not using it in a conversational situation.
Yes, that is additional. There is a policy chatbot that we have designed, same on the same engine. Everything is the same. Conversational purposes, all the employees of the organization can post the question, is this policy allowed? What is the leave policies? What is the employee retention? And all these things. And they get an answer by the Gen AI.
That is very cool. That is very, very cool. So you can scope it to your organizational policies. You can have a chatbot that only responds in the context of the organizational policies. But behind the scenes, it all runs on search. And if you don't want to expose your data through search or generative AI, you need to have robust security in place, right? Because, well, you don't want to expose your yearly salary review document behind your Copilot so people can raise questions at it, right? I was just wondering. Yeah, very cool. Thank you so much. That was a good example of building Gen AI-based custom solutions at workplace. Yeah, we got to start somewhere, right? And the easiest starting point is to build something based on, general knowledge, common knowledge that everyone in the organization might be needing. If it is general knowledge, if it is something that is accessible to everybody, they can search for it or they can ask Copilot or chatbots. You don't need to worry about the security aspects. And of course, every organization has some sort of a knowledge repository, right? You might have Confluence, some have SharePoint libraries. There is something cool about SharePoint. When you use SharePoint search inside, SharePoint environments, let's say you have a mini intranet on SharePoint, and you use the search, your search results in SharePoint are security trimmed. Meaning, if you don't have access to a folder with legal documents, those legal documents will never show up in the search results. That's pretty powerful. But with Azure Search, Azure AI Search, indexing, there is actually a feature in preview mode called SharePoint Indexer that enables you to start indexing content that you have on SharePoint in Azure, so you can actually query that data through OpenAI. But there's a catch here. That SharePoint Indexer does not take care of the security aspect that is defined within SharePoint boundaries. So you got to be careful with that. Just because SharePoint search results within SharePoint are security trimmed, if you expose that data through SharePoint Indexer to Azure, people can still access that data if they use a chatbot. So there's work to be done if you want to extensively use Gen AI inside your organization. And the grounding steps should be made around data governance. So you need to make sure that you have your house in order, your data in order when it comes to access policies, who should have access to what data is considered archived, what data is still relevant. So you need to get that part in order. That is the foundation. So if you get rubbish in, you will get rubbish out, right? So this is just a visualization of basically how you can hook up your Azure OpenAI service to your contextual data within your organization. I'm going to hop over this slide. We already talked about it. The next point of discussion is RAG. Have you heard of RAG? Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Share it with the AI service and search it, get the results based on that.
RAG actually adds context to the response that you get. So you don't just get any search results just because it had certain keywords matching your request. It actually considers other aspects around your request. It considers, it introduces the context into the picture. So for example, let's say you have a prompt, you have a question that you want to raise in the chat, and this is about your health issues or health plan, whatever. If you send it to to OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, the response you're going to get is an apology, right? It's good at apologizing. I'm really sorry. I don't know about that, right? Because there is no context to this. OpenAI has not been told about your health plan earlier. You're running away. Oi. There's plenty of room. Make yourselves at home. Cool. But of course, if you prepare OpenAI when you are prompting, you basically feed it some context about your health plan, about what you expect it to act as, right? Then the response that you're going to get is going to be based on the context that you have fed in. So if you skip those context settings, your response will be probably irrelevant or an apology, like what we saw earlier. So everyone is familiar with classic search. It's keyword search. It basically does a word-by-word comparison. When you write some text in the search box, you get the results or the hits that matches your query. So let's say if I write in the prompt using classic search that I want to know the brand of the best coffee I can get, and in my data store I have kept track of certain entities, and one is coffee. Once I submit the prompt, I will get coffee back as a response. But there is a different type of search that is introduced into the picture now with OpenAI, and that is vector search. Yeah? If we vectorize the data, we structure the data in vector format, and then you raise your prompt question, the answer you get is not going to be just coffee. It's going to consider the context, right? What it does is that it basically makes a comparison between vectors. The prompt is vectorized, and so is your data source, right? And there is some orchestration in between and the search service, which basically tries to find out which other vectors are relevant or are the closest neighbors of the vector provided through the prompt. And then, of course, you get a wider range of data. It's a smarter way of responding to my question, right? So this is what we just talked about. You can feed in your data behind the scenes. Your data source could be in different formats. It could be text, it could be video, images, and so forth. They need to get vectorized. And then on the other side, we also have the prompt coming in, getting vectorized. And what the Azure AI Search service does is that it basically queries those neighboring vectors that are most relevant and returns them in the result set. So I'm going to jump over a few of the slides that I have. They basically pass the same message. Let's see. These are all what we talked about. This is about adding the context to your search, basically, before you get the output. We already talked about it. And I want to move on to the demo. Before we go to Azure Portal, I want you to take a look at this architectural view of what it is that we are trying to achieve. What we're trying to do right now is to build a little chatbot. I'm going to feed some data, some text data, some documents that I've downloaded online about marine life. Yeah? So I just did some research online. I just downloaded a couple of PDFs from different universities around the world. There were like 6, 7 files that I randomly downloaded. And I saved them in a blob storage just to keep it simple. It could be somewhere else as well. Then I have that data ingested by Azure AI Search and indexed. And once I have the index ready, I hook up my data index with an Azure OpenAI service, and I start chatting. We start chatting in the playground, first of all, and then I can show you the Teams toolkit from the PMP team. I don't know if you're familiar with Microsoft 365 development, Teams FX. So there's a whole toolkit there that has a lot of samples that you can use. You just need to basically pick up a sample and populate it with your service endpoint details, API keys, and you basically have a chatbot in Teams inside the organization, for example. There's also the Azure bot framework, .NET bot framework. All of these are options that you can use for building chatbots. So whichever platform you're comfortable with, you can go with that. So now we're going to Azure Portal. And I also want to open the floor for questions, if there is any outstanding questions so far. No? We go to Azure Portal. So what I have here is a little resource group under which I have created my services. And I'm going to actually change my tenant. This is not the correct tenant. So bear with me for a minute. I will just sign in to another tenant. I mean, 11, right? It's like all right, let's see if I can switch directory. How much time do we have? 20 minutes?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. So here I have prepared a resource group that we had actually used for another purpose, but I started actually creating multiple indexes using the same Azure AI Search service. I didn't want to create another search service instance because it's expensive. It's quite expensive, actually, when it comes to indexing possibilities. So you can see we were using this for other kind of data I have here, but now we use it for marine life research as well. So inside this resource group, I have an OpenAI, Azure OpenAI instance. Let's keep that in mind. Going back to the resource group, I also have a search service. And when you browse to Azure AI Search service, on the left-hand side, you have your indexes that you have already created. You can see I have been indexing quite a lot of content, and marine life is the heaviest one so far. It's not a lot, it's like 2 MB. It's not much. In your organization, you will probably see bigger numbers. There is something about different deployment plans for your search services. You can deploy the free tier. It doesn't give you much indexing power. Basically, you have none. You can deploy the basic tier, and you can deploy, standards. They come in different levels. This one is a standard one, I think. We can check. It's a basic one, yeah. And the basic ones, here it is. The basic ones have a limitation. I mean, all of these different tiers have their own limitations. For example, one of the limitations is the number of indexes you can have inside that search service. For basic, it's around 15. So you quickly hit the roof if you want to use the same search service. Where I have uploaded my random PDF files. I have different containers, and here are my PDFs. There are around 8 of them. I didn't even change their names. I just downloaded them from different universities online. They just showed up. So let's go to OpenAI service, and as you know, you can use Azure OpenAI Studio to play around a little bit. There is a little playground, just like OpenAI interface, and the playground that you get with OpenAI alone, you have the same experience here in Azure. So once OpenAI Studio opens, I have a little playground section here, and I'm going to go to chat. I can raise any questions right now at this Azure OpenAI endpoint. It's like OpenAI running on model GPT-35 Turbo 16K. So it already has, it's expected to have some knowledge about marine life, right? So I can just ask a question and say, what is the impact of climate change on marine life? I misspelled something. You see, I misspelled climate, but it got the point. And it gives me some answers, high level from its own learnings. The next step is that I'm going to scope it to my research data. I want to get responses out of those 8 research papers only. I want to scope it, right? I want to ground it to my scope, my data. So here I have to choose a data source, obviously. And since I've already indexed my content, I'm going to use Azure AI Search. Had I not indexed earlier, I could have used the blob storage directly, and it would automatically create an index for me. Yeah? So I'm going to use Azure AI Search. Let's choose our search service. Now I have the list of all of my indexes that I've already created. I'm going to choose marine life. And we want to do vector search. I have an embedding model deployed already. And we keep it simple, no custom field mapping. We go forward. What type of search do I want to do? Combined. And we have the hybrid and semantic search, right? The semantic search is all about, intent of the question. What do you mean by that? Why are you asking this question? Let's choose a vector search. Save and close. And here I have my index added as my data source. So let's raise the same question. I am under the impression that I have grounded my OpenAI endpoint to the scope of my organization, my organizational data on marine life. So what is the impact of climate change on marine life? it's giving me a different answer compared to what it gave me in the earlier stage. In the raw OpenAI only context, no search service involved, this was the initial answer. The answer based on my content shows up differently. And as you can see, there are citations. So it actually refers to my PDF documents as reference now. And it only gave me information based on whatever it could find in my list of documents, right? How does it feel so far? It's very easy, right? It's not rocket science at all. And it actually gets funnier because you can deploy this from here without writing a single line of code, right? Either to a new web app or to a Copilot instance. When you deploy it to a new web app, I'm not sure if I have the capacity to do that, but let's do it. Marine Live 19, because today is 19th. And everything is deployed in Switzerland North, so we stick to that. Pricing plan, we go basic. You can enable chat history as well, if you want. Once you enable it, it basically provisions some database behind the scenes that keeps track of your chats. So every time you open a new chat session, based on who you are, it basically, like what did we talk about 2 days ago? But of course, it's expensive. It's more expensive. There's a pricing plan here, so I'm going to skip it. And then the deployment starts. It takes a few minutes.
A question while this is deploying.
Yeah?
Let's say I were a car dealer and I would like to provide like an AI seller for my cars. And I want to give all the PDFs with all the information of my available cars. And also there are prices there, which I want, because I mean, this is what most people are interested in. But I also want the AI seller to give general information about these cars. Is it black or white, like either it's all the knowledge that comes from me and that's it, or will it use its own knowledge as well?
You can configure it to use both. That is configurable. It's, I'm not sure if, I mean, if you're talking about external facing chatbots, for example, that's a use case for that. You can combine contextual data as well as generic data. And, but inside the organization, you usually want to, ground it to the scope. What we see currently among our clients is that everyone is so terrified about exposing this data to the outside world. They even want to deploy, or let's say publish the Azure OpenAI instances on private subnets. You need some public exposure. There is this fear and lack of trust, I would say. So that's the use case. If you don't want to have anything to do with the outside world, you just want to, expose your correct data that you have control over. You basically bind it to this index. But you can configure it. You can add multiple, I think, backend data sources also.
A follow-up question. In the playground, could you do some configuration for the AI model?
You can.
Okay.
You can. So as you can see on the left-hand side, there is a deployment tab. And here we have deployed text embedding, ADA, and also GPT-35 Turbo 16K. And this is where the capacity question comes in. some, if I want to create a new deployment, I can probably see all the models. And I can create a deployment for, let's say, GPT-4 here. But I don't have a capacity in this tenant for GPT-4. So I need to request it from Microsoft admin team with justification of what is it I want to do with it. They enable it. But I only have capacity on this model right now. So that's why that's the one that is used. So you can actually add multiple deployments of different models. Yeah.
Just a question about about the customers who were a little bit afraid of enabling this. Had they done a proper AI readiness assessment with roadmap, governance, and everything? Or were they just jumping into it?
They are POCing, poking, poke everywhere, We have to start somewhere, and you can start safe with the data that is publicly available to your employees on intranet or Confluence or wherever your knowledge base is. Just to, also bring people on board, get them acquainted with what this means, how this works. But most of the organizations have not done that exercise yet. They've not done that homework of, categorizing their data, labeling it. You have Microsoft Purview now, which is quite powerful when it comes to data governance. You have Microsoft Fabric, which is the ultimate solution for centralized, data lake, resolutions. One lake concept is also quite mentioned in the market. So that, be careful with the permissions. The permissions are quite tricky. So you could, of course, build a chatbot that is only added to one Teams. And that Teams only has members of the legal department. So only if you're a member of that Teams, you get to use that chatbot. But that, of course, requires a lot of education, information. People should know what it means when they add someone as a member. There's a lot more at stake if you have that chatbot added to your collaboration space in Teams, right? So short answer, no. Most of the organizations have not done their homework when it comes to data governance yet. But they are talking about it. They are realizing the impact and the importance of it. It's just that it's such a heavy weight when you talk about data. A company like Tetra Pak, I shouldn't mention any organizations, but I mean, I can just imagine. I'm not working with Tetra Pak. I have no idea. I don't have a say in this, but I can just imagine big enterprises have such a widespread IT landscape with so much data in the cloud and still on premise as well. You have archived data, outdated data. This is quite a massive, mammoth size job to start with categorization and labeling and, data ownership, data products, data mesh topics, But it has to start somewhere. It has to start.
Of course, the readiness assessment actually goes beyond the IT because you need all levels in the company to be on board on what should be allowed and not allowed policies.
Yeah, and I don't think in Sweden it's going to be on fast pace because everybody should agree, right? Everyone should be on the same page. So it gets complicated once you involve the business together with IT. And without business, it cannot be done either.
But it answers a lot of the questions that on the table when they start using it. So I think they would be less afraid if they had done the assessment before.
I agree. And there are organizations that can help you with that. We can run a 3-month assessment period together with Microsoft, just to get an inventory of, what is there on the ground, what is it you're dealing with, and then you do a timeline planning, you try to chunk it up, slice the elephant. Is that okay to go back to this? Yeah, we come back to questions. So talking of the configurations you can add to your Azure OpenAI service, you can see which models are actually provisioned or deployed, data files, quotas. Quota or capacity is what I was talking about. As you can see, I have a quota only for GPT-35 Turbo and embeddings. I don't have anything for GPT-4 here. And if you want to request quota, you have to go through the form that I was talking about, which is this form.
Usually respond within 24 hours.
Yeah, usually it's fast, but for GPT-4 I requested and I've been waiting for it for 2 days. But enablement of Azure OpenAI service in the tenant, it went quite quickly. Same with Azure AI Search, those were quite quick. So what did we do now? We tried to deploy, right? And I'm gonna go to my resource group to see if I find a web app and if it is deployed, because we chose Marine Life 19, right? It did? No? That was the form. I think I lost the session when I went to the left navigation. But I have a web app already deployed since before. Let's see if that one is something we can use to browse to. So once you deploy, I can open another session as well. You basically get the question of authorization and authentication, so that part should also be configured for your web app before you can actually browse to it. So for example, if I go to Marine Life 2, I think this one doesn't have any configuration in place. It does. So forget about this one. Let's see if I have, let's see if I have configured it for this one as well. I have configured it for the previous web app. So, well, it did blink for a second before it loaded the chatbot. And that page is the page you actually get by default, asking for authentication of the web app to be configured. And I have set it to use Microsoft identification, so I sign in with my own identity, and then I have the chatbot here deployed, not branded, not much extra stuff added to it. This is the vanilla deployed chatbot that you get if you deploy via the playground. And we can ask the same question, right? Should we ask the same question that we asked in the playground? So what is the impact of climate change on marine life? It's taking its time. And there you go. We got the answer and the citations referring to those PDF files that I had scoped the chatbot to, right? As I said, you can use different technology stack for building these chatbots. Maybe it's worth looking at the playground one more time, if I can quickly show you something. Okay, here is the session. That's not bad. You see, this was the session we opened, and we played with the data from the index initially. And there is a little button up here called View Code. So you actually have the code snippet that you need in different languages: Python, JSON format, C#, and curl. So you can actually just, pick up the code right here and incorporate it in your, chatbot solution. Security-wise, there is API keys involved. And also the model parameter needs to be provided. What I have here is a Postman JSON collection that I've imported. And you see, I have one endpoint for the OpenAI service that I have in Azure. And in the header part, basically, I feed in the API key. It's okay, you saw it, I will delete it. And of course, in the body side, I'm feeding in, or I'm posting, basically, the prompt. I have started the message here with some content, giving context to OpenAI. I'm telling it is an AI assistant that helps people find information. And look at this, I asked for emojis. I just asked for responses getting provided only via emojis. It was a colleague's idea. And this is just raw OpenAI. This is not gonna return data from my articles, right? And then of course there is a user role and there is a prompt. What is the impact of climate change, right? And there are a few other parameters that you can play with when you make a REST call, basically. And then we send it in. And this is the response for impact of climate. Raw OpenAI. We have, of course, a request here querying the same information from OpenAI grounded to the search index called marine life. So again, in the header, you have the API key, and you have the API version, blah, blah. I'm done in a minute. So what do I have here now? Again, I'm giving it the context. Maybe we remove the emoji query, and we ask the same question. And I expect the same response I saw in the web app after it was deployed. So as you can see here, I have the content, the citation references, and then of course there is more links to the citations as we go down or up, I believe, somewhere here. Yeah? Sorry? Yeah, this is JSON response in Postman. This is just to show you that it's, at the end of the day, it's a REST API call. And you can call it from outside of Azure. I'm querying marine life data from outside of Azure. So that means I haven't secured it quite much. I can access this data from outside of the tenants if I have the API key. Of course, you can add layers and layers of security with your private networking, with your APIM, endpoint setup. You don't want to use the raw API key directly. You want to incorporate, OAuth 2 authorization when you, authentication and authorization when you access data from your tenant securely, right? With that said, I'm gonna wrap it up. And let's open it for questions. If we have any questions, yes?
This setup, you uploaded the document directly to storage, but you're also mentioning there are some plugins that you can incorporate. For example, if you want to Confluence, how these plugins can be.
The plugins can be used for Copilot. This is Azure OpenAI and Azure AI Search. If you want to use Azure Stack for your chatbot, you have APIs on Azure DevOps side, on Jira side, on Confluence side. They all have APIs. Atlassian company has its own REST APIs. So if you're using Azure Stack for building your chatbot, you basically can get that data through their APIs, right? One of the clients, actually, in one of their POCs, they have downloaded Confluence pages, and they are uploading them in blob storage. So it's that basic how they are handling it. But of course, you have APIs if you're using Azure Stack. But if you are using Microsoft 365 App Suite, building chatbots, co-pilots, digital assistants within Microsoft 365, then you can build it in different ways. For example, you can use Copilot Studio to build Power Virtual Agents. And that's where you get the vanilla Microsoft 365 Copilot as the basis, as the template. And then you can infuse more contextual logic in it by adding different connectors, graph connectors, for example.
Which stage of the indexing of the plugin itself, or the tool from the plugin?
That's a good question. In Azure, you can actually schedule it to run daily. It can index once only, or once a day, or weekly, or let's see if I can show you. With Copilot Studio, there should be a similar job. I don't have the clear answer. I don't want to give you false information. But there should be a similar pattern in Copilot Studio as well. But let me show you the search index and the schedule situation. Let's go to the resource group and use the search index. I might have already exceeded the number 15 for indexes. So we can say new index. It doesn't like capital letters. And I should be able to add the data source, which I have. Just a second. Let's use this instead. So let's remove this index and let's add a new data source. Let's say I'm gonna add a blob storage and called marine life. And here it is. You have the indexer schedule that you can schedule it to index your content repetitively on hourly basis or daily basis or only once. And search service is expensive, so I have used only once. I've been cheap about it because it was static content. I was not feeding it more data. But in your case, I guess hourly is the best you get. It's not very flexible. You cannot set it up for every 15 minutes or every... It's not near real time. Let's put it that way. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I exceeded my time quota. But I'll be around. Let's have a good chat afterwards. Thank you very much.
So, second session, and Saeid Dahl, is going to talk about Azure Arc, and then myself, I'm going to talk about IoT. He has a fantastic presentation that I almost destroyed yesterday, but I also destroyed my board. So that's why I move a bit like a robot. So with that, I pass it to
Nikos.
Please turn your mic on.
Yep. 1, 2. This work? Yeah. Cool. Perfect. Yeah. Great day, right? And before I start, thank you so much, Negar. It was really great. I have some word for you about AI. AI is the future, okay? And you need to learn about that, and this feature is happening right now. So learn about AI as much as you can. This is my tips for you, right? Thanks again that you invited me again in this stage. It's really amazing to be here and talk about some services, and my favorite one is Azure Arc. Perfect. So let's start. Let's warm up. What is hybrid cloud? How much you know? What is hybrid cloud? It's not some clouds together, some for raining, some for snow. Right? No answer? One good. Yeah, perfect. So, in simple terms, when you have your own data center, when you have on-premise, and when you have cloud, like Azure cloud, public cloud, I would say. Together, we call it hybrid cloud, right? And in terms of hybrid cloud, it means your resources distributed across the world. It can be, I don't know, in Sweden. It can be United States. Doesn't matter. So we need to find a way to control our hybrid cloud. So I have a story here. I made it by comic. Sorry about, because of this guy. I tried to use good prompt, but seems it's a bit exaggerate, and this miserable guy is almost done. But yeah, it's IT guy, right? So I have these 3 sad guys here. I introduce them to you. Jay Tribiani, IT administrator. Chandler Bing, software developer. Ross Keller, security admin. You already know them, right? No, not these guys, of course. We are not talking about friends, right? So, why these guys are sad? What happened? It's not that much bad, right? It's IT. But yeah, let's start this story. Before that, yeah, boring part, but I have to add it, right? So, this is me, Saeid Dahl, 15 years in IT, and some of those days I was thinking I want to be a gardener. But yeah, it means right here, I'm here, and it means I've never give up, and I love it. I'm working as Azure Senior Solution Architect at Opets, and also my expertise on hybrid cloud, cloud adoption, automation and integration, and I'm a PowerShell lover. Beside that, I'm a community leader of Microsoft Learn, Microsoft Zero to Hero, and we have almost 6,000 members there. So if you would like to join this link, aka.ms/join Zero to Hero, and you are very welcome. We love to have more people there. Beside that, very warm welcome from Global Azure. I'm Global Azure admin team, part of Global Azure admin team. So I'm really happy to see you all here for Global Azure event in Azure Skåne, of course. And yeah, you can connect me with on LinkedIn or Twitter. I don't like to say it X, but yeah, Twitter. So let's back to this story. Let's start with Joy, right? This guy is so sad because he has to manage more than 100 servers across, I don't know, all of these different clouds on premises. And it's so hard. Why? Because you need to be able to monitor them. you need to make sure that all of configuration that you have on different servers and services should be always follow that configuration that you want to have in your environment. Beside that, it's really hard because, yeah, imagine that you have some servers in your on-premise like VMware or some Hyper-V. Then when you want to scaling on those servers, then you have to use different applications, services, and so on. And also, when it comes to like, based on like some software monitoring, if you want to control some automation, IT guys, right? They always love that. Some PowerShell guys, they want to push something to the servers, right? And change things, and of course, destroy it. But yeah, it would be perfect if you can have one plane of management to destroy all of the servers, right? Yes. But let's jump to the other one, the developer, general being. He's so sad because he is not really able to do that innovation on his softwares. Why? Imagine Kubernetes clusters. It's really hard to manage them if they, implemented across different places. If you have like cloud, if you have on-premises Kubernetes, so it's pretty hard. And the developers are not really able to control those pods, updates, push, and also if you want to connect it like to GitHub or Azure DevOps, yes, that's the tricky part, because you are not able to use that flexible connection between your Azure DevOps and your on-premise Kubernetes. Yes. Let's jump to this one, Ross Geller, security admin. So this guy is so sad. Why? Because he cannot control or monitor all of those servers, services, based on security needs. And when it comes to compliance, wow, control compliance across all of these, distributed environments, that's a kind of, yeah, but it depends if you have a lot of worm, some, other things that you need to always take care of that. We are talking about hackers, right? Yeah, all the time you have to control it. So, yeah. Let's talk about it. We have these environments here, left side hand. We have on-premises, Kubernetes on on-premises. Also, we have GCP, Google Cloud, or AWS, right? And all of instances, resources that you have here, you need to have several different software to be able to control them in terms of monitoring, management, compliance. What else? Updates. Oh, important part, of course. But when you have everything on Azure, wow, guys, it's amazing. Yeah, I'm a Microsoft guy. Yeah, always exaggerated, but it is true. It is true. So management, security, compliance, and monitoring. You can control it easily inside Azure, and it's cool. What about this part? You need to purchase a lot of, applications, security things. Oh, come on. We need to have a bridge, like this Golden Gate. I love it. I wanted to add Orserent bridge, but couldn't find a PNG format, sorry. But yeah, you need to build this bridge between your, non-Azure resources to your Azure cloud. And it's possible with this cute icon, not this one, of course, Azure Arc. I'm talking about Azure Arc. Azure Arc removes all of these hassles, all of these problems, and basically you can have it in this architecture. You can have all of these cool things inside Azure in one plane of management. This is the diagram for Azure Arc, the architecture of the Azure Arc. And I want to simple explanation, do some simple explanation on this diagram from bottom to top. So let's start with this part. It means it does support Azure Stack HCI. How many of you know about Azure Stack HCI? Yes, please.
I don't know much, but
Yeah.
well, it's more or less the same features as the other cloud, but
Mhm.
you run it on my.
Good one. Yeah, of course. You know. I've seen you before in Azure Arc events. So yes, please. What do you know about Azure Stack HCI? Just like simple terms. That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. So this one is not something that you can use for like 100, in a scale of 100 servers environment. Don't do that, please. It's for very enterprise. I'm talking about X2, X3 enterprise because it's really expensive. It means you can't bring all of Azure features to your on-premise, like AVD, right? Azure Virtual Desktop. You can't bring it to your environment, have it there. So that's why it's expensive. Also VMware, it does support AWS, Google Platform, so you can connect it to those resources. A bit top. We have these kind of, sorry, not this part, this part. We have these resources inside these kind of platforms. A bit top here, when it mentioned about resource management, Azure resource management, it means when you onboard your resources from on-premise or other clouds to Azure, it means it's going to be part of Azure resources. It's like an Azure resources, right? Why we are saying like that? Because when you have it as Azure resources, it means you can apply these things to it. Monitoring, policies, security, tags, what else? Yeah, I think I've mentioned all of them. Yeah, and log analytics. So, yes? This one? Which one? Azure Copilot. Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. Perfect. Yeah, that's true. You can use Azure Copilot for that. And why? Because you can act with those resources like acting with your resources inside Azure. And Azure Resource Manager. So you can control your resources with PowerShell, Azure CLI, and more. So it's really flexible. And then if you use something like data services, which is high-level part of the Azure Arc, you can bring these kind of part of the resources inside your on-premise environment. For example, you can have Azure Function or Logic Apps and use your internal resources, your on-premise resources, to build them. So it's really cool, right? So here, I want to show you the Azure Arc. Here. So what I've done, I have this Hyper-V in my environment, and I have installed several servers here, included Azure, SQL database, 2 versions of the Ubuntu, and also 2 versions of the Windows. So what I've done, I've onboarded them inside Azure. Here, not here, here, of course. If you go to Azure Arc and machines, yes, they onboarded here. And you can see a lot of information here. If I a bit scroll right, so here, operation system. You can see that. You can easily enable predict security things for updates in your machines. Just jump to one of these like Windows 2022. One thing that I would like add to this part. Regarding Windows Server 2012, as you know, Microsoft mentioned that they are not going to support for the security update and, of course, other updates. So basically, this is the solution. You can onboard your servers to Azure Arc, and basically you can, they call it extend security update, right? So you can easily continue update on those servers until you, migrate to the new version. But I'm Azure Arc lover. Don't do it, just migrate it, okay? So what we have here, except some information, this left menu is the coolest part here. So this part, we can do a lot of things here. Windows Admin Center. This is the place that you can control your Windows. You can see a lot of things there. Beside that, you have the security part. Extension. You can install extension on on-premise environment. A bit more down, we have operational part, which is related machine configuration. Just give you an idea about machine configuration. So imagine that you want to have a fixed version of IIS on some web application servers, and you want to be sure always those configuration will apply that. And also run command, which is in preview, but it does work perfectly. So you can push specific command directly to your machine. Doesn't matter if it's in the other clouds or in on-premise. And also you have update management, so easily. Inventory and change tracking is some part of these kind of control monitoring of software and process inside your operational system. The part that I would like to show you, I already enabled this admin center for this machine, but if I click here, yes, I can see this one. Windows Admin Center Administrator need to be applied to this resource. And it's a good point. Role-based access. I can use role-based access on resources that are located on my on-premise. And it means if I have someone that he needs or she needs to be able to use that resources on-premise, I can give the access from here. And it's so cool. And of course, identity and also Microsoft Entra. So let's do it together, Windows Admin Center. If I go here, just let's add role. Right. Windows Admin Center. Next, here. This one, yes, select. Review, yes, it's me. Do it. And done. Let's back here. Come on. I order you. Come on, my friend. Got them all right? Sometimes it's not working as it's intended. Let's do some magic here. Nope. Windows Admin Center, yes, yes, yes. Let's back, no, here. Oh, come on. Normally it shouldn't be like that. Okay, did work. So, the error gone. And then connect. Admin Center. And you can do a lot of things here. You can monitor a lot of things here. Yes. So, Admin Center, you have a lot of things here. You can check the performance monitoring, live information of your server. You have PowerShell to run the code directly. You can install the apps. Imagine that. Oh, that's cool. You can check the file sharing here even. And a lot of things. I don't want to deep, to this information. Just wanted to show you how much you are able to do with this kind of, things. Yeah, that's cool. I have full access to everything that is related to my server environment in on-premise. So before I jump to presentation, I want to mention about something which is really cool, and I need to mention about that. So maybe you think, okay, how can I test Azure Arc? And it's an important question, because building hybrid cloud, you need to have servers, you need to have other clouds, how you can connect it together. That's hard. If I back to main menu here to Azure Arc, I have these things here. Azure Arc, Jumpstart. So what is Jumpstart? I can show it here on the website. arcjumpstart.com. arcjumpstart.com is the website, and also you have different Jumpstart universe. So you can use this project to, instead of spending a lot of hours time to build your test environment, with some clicks you can build your Jumpstart test. And you can basically leverage this project to test a lot of things. For example, here, if I go to Trybox, I built this demo based on Jumpstart. I have two flavors here, Arcbox IT Pros and Fullbox. It's a bit expensive. Just run it, remove it. Don't, leave it for days. Then you will be out of credit. So what you will get with that implementation, for IT Pros, you will get like Kubernetes, Arc-enabled Kubernetes, Arc-enabled servers, data service. So you can test a lot of things. So it's a great project, and also it's open for any contribution. Yeah, you are welcome to jump to community and do whatever you want to do. Let's jump back to the presentation. Hello? Yes? Oh. Okay, you have to hear more. Yeah, again, right? Okay. Hello?
So actually, what exactly that Jumpstart is doing? Is it making the connection to active servers, or?
Okay, Jumpstart is combination of a lot of things together. Bicep, some codes, and plus some magic things inside the servers. So Jumpstart help you to have a kind of, it's going to simulate this hybrid cloud inside your Azure. So you can use your Azure resources to create the hybrid cloud connected to Azure, Azure Arc. And you can test a lot of things here. So go. Yes. Oh, happy guys. Yeah, I know these are not, those guys, but yeah, it's AI. I ask it, hey, these images should be happy, and it's generated like this, and I like it. It's so cool. It's really close to Joy Terbiani. So now we have happy guys. These guys can control, manage everything from one plane of management, and he's so happy because, yeah, he's able to do a lot of things inside Azure instead of using different resources, tools, applications, monitoring, and so on. This guy is really happy because they push a lot of things without any problem to a lot of Kubernetes clusters, in no matter where is it. And this security guy, he can control everything. The environment is now enough flexible to be able to push, get data, monitoring, compliance, and so on. So that's really good, and they are so happy now. And yeah, this is my part about Azure Arc, and it's time to jump to this cute part. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you. I just. It sounds okay? Yeah. I just realized that I'm the guy that has to continue after Saeid, and I mean, it's not an easy task. IoT, Internet of Things. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, I hurt my back recently, and it will affect my move a little bit, but it has also affected the presentation in a funny way, as you will see. I'm Nikos Delis. I work as a senior cloud engineer and cloud evangelist at a company called Hello. I have a few Azure certifications, and I have a blog called endetechnique.com. If you like Azure, you might find some useful stuff there. I do a podcast called Azure Triumphs. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, who knows where else. And together with Negar and Goran and Michael and Magnus, we are running Azure Skåne. And thanks Fukafe for that. And you can find me on X, LinkedIn, and GitHub by my name. So, I took this image from Saeid's presentation, and I was thinking, this can't be a happy place to be. Like, no matter what you do, nonetheless, IoT is Internet of Things, so it's like the science of connecting sensors and like less tech-savvy things together. But happily, Azure can help us. And also, Saeid only said half the story, because in the same company as those guys, we have a few more colleagues. So this is Maybach Hertz, who is an IoT engineer, and as you can see, she's very distressed. And this is because without Azure Arc, she has no way to connect with all those devices. But luckily, another colleague of hers, Rig Scott, she tells her that she doesn't have to worry because Azure IT has all the solutions. And so, those are the last two slides. I won't give you start for long. So we have a number of sensors. And in some way, we need to collect data from them. This is the use case, this is the need. So what we are looking for is data awareness. Now, let's say they are thermometers, and we want to know, like we have 1,000 fridges, and we want to know how all of them are feeling. If the temperatures are looking good, if some of them is very high, those could be cameras. And they're filming something, and as long as nothing happens, we're good. But as soon as something happens, we need to get notified. So collecting all this data is a very, very tough task, and collecting all this data when the sensors are not, or where the devices are not physically in the same space, is close to impossible. So in Azure, you can simplify this task by a lot by deploying the following resources, or there are many ways. I will show you the simplest ones. So the first thing we need is an Azure IoT Hub. Has anyone of you heard of IoT Hub or Event Hub? Event Hub, okay, we have a few. So Event Hub is a service that uses the publish-subscribe model, meaning that we have something, someone, a device, like an application, something sending messages, and messages imagine JSON format. And then we have subscribers, so it's many to many, that send messages to the same topic, and the subscribers to this topic, they're those services or people or devices or programs that are interesting in those messages. So this message is going to be available for each one of those subscribers. Now the IoT Hub is just Event Hub with some, the IoT Hub is just an Event Hub with some extra IoT functionality, and I will show you right away. Now, this is where we send the data. So up to here we can send it, but we can't really see anything. We can't see the messages there. We need to use something. And this something could be the Azure streaming job. Stream Analytics job. This is another resource which can listen to various sources, but one of them is the IoT Hub, and it will send the messages, it will process them, maybe change something if we want them, filter out those that are not interesting for us, and send them to maybe to digital twins if you want to have a visual presentation of the devices, or to a Cosmos database, like for cold storage if you want to keep the data for a longer time, an SQL database or Microsoft Fabric where Power BI is. So when you want to see like data in a nice way, you could use that. Or you could just use Azure Data Explorer, which is the one service that I'm going to show you later today. I have to be honest, I only recently started experimenting with it, and I am amazed, I have to say that. It is actually classified as a database, this Azure Data Explorer, and you can register a lot of databases there. Now, one of the most interesting features is that it can get as input, or it can ingest structured data, like imagine tables with fields and everything, semi-structured data as JSON, or even unstructured data, like text. And then it can visualize this information in a way that I would dare to say is comparable with Power BI. So all those nice tools that we have in Power BI, we can get them in a nice dashboard in Data Explorer and make everything look very, very nice and smooth. So I will bring my computer now. Let's see. I won't need more than a moment. Things are very, very fast. Am I already up and running? Yeah, good. Okay. So creating those resources is pretty straightforward. I will just do it very fast. Just to show you how it goes. Azure, come on, IoT Hub. Here it is. And of course it doesn't appear because I have to remove Azure. There it is. IoT Hub. And then I just have to give it a nice name. And I have to pick a region. I mean, those have to be unique, so it's as unique as it gets. Now, the pricing tiers here, we have the free, which is don't use it. Then we have standard, which is the most popular, basic, which is also please don't use it, and standard, which is this is the one you need. And the only thing that makes it more expensive or less expensive is the number of messages that we intend to send. Then all those things are very, very scalable, so don't worry if you pick the wrong tier, you can increase it later. And then in networking, public access, of course. Azure Arc is going to fix all security and stuff. Management, yeah, shared access policy and airbag, we're totally fine with those. Add-ons, no tags, of course. And then review, create, and that's it. I want to do it because it takes forever. And what takes even longer time is the Data Explorer. I mean, this takes minutes. It really does. So a cluster name with a unique name. Oh, sorry. Must and alphanumeric. Oh, I got some Swedish characters there. Sorry. Okay, and the workload. Of course, we take the dev test, which is very, very bad. I mean, it's good for testing and development, obviously, but it's very slow. So I wouldn't use it in production. And then I can't even pick size, of course. Availability zones, I mean, in dev test, it's useless. Scaling, we have manual scale or optimal scale, and it will do it by itself. And you can also pick more instances if you would like to. There are some configurations that are pretty interesting. Streaming ingestion, that's an interesting thing, because when you activate this, then you can connect directly to the IoT Hub, and it will draw the data by itself. So it will do behind the scenes some subscription. Enable purge. For me, this should be on by default, but when it's off, it means that it won't be able to delete any data. And this is good, because behind the scenes, it mobilizes storage, which is very cheap, so we don't get to pay a lot. But, I mean, it's easy to forget data, and then you pay for nothing. And it will auto-stop the cluster to prevent it from costing even more. Now I zoomed in and I can zoom out again. There. Some security again. This guy fixed it. Don't worry. Public everything. We're good. Yep. Diagnostics, like what do we need to diagnose? Nothing. And tags, of course, no tags. Of course, I'm kidding. Like you should take those things very, very seriously. And I won't deploy it because it takes forever, but this is what they look like. So starting from the IoT hub, the only thing you need to get started is to go to devices here and to add a device. And let's call it test. You pick the authentication type, semantic key is fine for me. IoT Edge, like in a parenthesis, is a runtime package which you can deploy in your device if it has an operating system. And then you can easily deploy other applications there. It has Docker and everything. It's super cool. And no parent device, save, nothing else to configure. And it could come. And when it comes, the only thing we need is this connection string. So we can write an application. So I have a device client, which is an object of the device client class. And I use the SDK device client, create from connection string. I just send the connection string, this long thingy, and I pick the transport time MQTT. It's a protocol that's very often used in IoT. And then, when I have my client, I have a task also, which will run forever. It uses a randomizer, and it generates a random temperature that's between 20 and 22 degrees. So I wanted to do something like playful and close to realistic. It will create a message, and this thing is JSON, raw JSON. So it will have a timestamp, which is UTC now, and it will have a temperature in a decimal with a point. And then we create a message. This also comes from the IoT SDK, where we get the bytes from the text. I mean, this row can really keep you occupied for a long time until you find it. If you don't create the message in the correct way, it won't arrive. It's not that it will arrive and it will be malformatted. You won't ever see it. And then you start troubleshooting other things, and it's crazy. And then you just send it, and that's it. Actually, that was all of it. I realized that I'm the person that's separating you from pizza. I'm usually in the other side of that separation. So I won't run it right now, but I will give you the GitHub repo to see it. The result looks like that. I am in Azure Data Explorer now. Let's show you how I went there, so you don't think I'm a fraud. Data management. Pa-pam, pa-pam. Come on. Come on, boy. There we are. This is what it looks like. Very, very simple here as well. We can query the data using Kusto language, the intuitive language as they call it. I don't find it very intuitive, to be honest. So temperatures, where temperature is not empty string, and it will become empty string if you use comma instead of dot. Order by timestamp, and I get a lot of those. Now if I add a little something here, and timestamp between date, time, what's today? I remember I had something, yeah, there. That, and I will take that as well. Now I pick those 2 days because I remember that I had quite a lot of data then. Yeah, those are quite close, the 16th. And from there, add a visual type table. If we take area chart and look at that, like we're getting somewhere. And we can play with it as much as we want. And when we are satisfied, then we'll add a tile. And then the only thing I need to do is to paste my query. I will check that it looks nice. And I will pick a visual. And again, I don't want a tile. Let's take a line chart. Yeah, that's a good one. Apply changes, and here it is. And you save that, and you can share it with your friends and family, or colleagues or customers. Yeah, of course. So yeah, I think I broke all records in a short presentations. This was a little something where we could do with Azure IoT. And I see Michael is waiting. Do you say something? Yes. Pizza is served. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for coming and sacrificing Friday. Questions and everything. Let's mingle and talk.
Next time you get 45 minutes.
At least.
Please.